Joining me on the phones from, I believe, Edinburgh, Scotland, it's IAIN McKINNA. How are you, Ian?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you, Derek?
I'm awesome. Am I correct? You are in Edinburgh?
Yeah, I'm in Edinburgh. I'm right on the Royal Mile. This is in my recording studio called Offbeat, and my wife and I live in the flat next door. It's on the top floor of an old Edinburgh tenement, so it's quite unusual, but it works.
I saw a very beautiful video recently with you and your wife. Your wife was on the very top of a building. That was really cool.
Yeah, we get fantastic views from the roof, and if it's a nice sunny day, unless you get attacked by seagulls, which you do occasionally.
Dive bombing you?
Yeah, I think they know my face, but Kirsty plays electric violin, and we did a video up there with a song called Drifting Around. And it's basically on YouTube. If you look under Harmonic Overdrive, you'll find it, Drifting Around.
I love the name Harmonic Overdrive. That's so cool. And that is comprised of yourself and your wife, Kirsty. Now, how long have you known and been with Kirsty?
Well, this year we had our 39th anniversary. So right. We met in 1982. And at the time we met, I was actually living in London, and Kirsty was living in this flat from where I'm speaking to you now. This was her apartment at the time, and I came up from London. I was actually signed to Simon Cowell, but at that time nobody knew who he was. We used to tell people who we were signed to, and they go, "Simon who?" But anyway, he sent us up to Edinburgh with this band I was in at the time called Flying Colours, with me and my songwriting partner at the time, Jamie Campbell, who's still making music now, actually. And we came up to do a single at Castle Sound with Blue Nile's Robert Bell. And Blue Nile, I don't know if you've heard of them.
I've heard the name.
Yeah. And so anyway, we came up to do a single. Although I'm kind of from Scotland, we were based in London at the time when we had our deal down there. And Kirsty was working for my brother, who had a little business making falafels. This was before the word vegan existed, Derek. So anyway, she was round at my brother's, and I went to visit him. The rest is history.
39 years ago, wow.
Yeah, and she moved back down to London with me, and kept the flat on here and rented it out. And we've done quite a lot of travelling around since then. We had a little project at the time called ZED, and we did an album in a studio in Hastings. And then after that, we toured around Europe, and eventually we always gravitated back to this flat here in the High Street. So that's how we met.
And then Offbeat, of course, recording is your home base. I've got to ask you, because it's been driving me crazy, how did you very first meet and become friends with Pat McGlynn?
All right, yeah. That was quite a funny story, actually, because I had actually finished the album, the Z album, and I was actually needing to get my car fixed. So I took it to this mechanic that I knew, a guy called Wee Joe, and quite a good car mechanic. And afterwards I said, "Oh, I've done this album." He said, "Oh, I'll have to introduce it to someone." So I got in my car after he'd fixed it, and we drove round. He didn't tell me where he was going. And he went to Corstorphine and knocked on this door. And who opened the door? Les McEwen. And I thought, what? So Joe introduced us, and I played him the album and got on quite well. And then maybe about, I don't know, a week or so later, I got a phone call from Les saying, "Oh, listen, I'm getting some music together with Pat McGlynn. Do you fancy coming up and having a jam?" So I just took my guitar along to the house in Corstorphine, and that's where Les's parents were staying at the time. So he was staying with his parents at that point, and they had a little garage in the back garden with a little recording studio set up, and we just started jamming, getting ideas together, and it just clicked right away, really. Pat and I, I'd play bass, he'd play guitar, we'd swap around. We started to get 2 or 3 ideas very easily together like that. And then after a while, Les said, "Listen, why don't we go into a studio and record some stuff?" So I'd been trying to get into the studio in Edinburgh called Planet Studios. I'd been trying to get a job there, and every time I went down there, the guy said, "No, I don't need an engineer." And I said, "Oh man, give me a break, let me get into your studio," because it was a really nice little studio. So eventually I went down and I said, "Look, tell you what, if I bring quite a well-known act in here, would you give me a job in your studio?" And he said, "Well, who is it?" I said, "Well, Les McEwen and Pat McGlynn." And he went, "Oh, okay, you've got the job."
That's awesome.
So we ended up going into the studio, and I think it was the first day, the guy whose name was Will Smarties, and he's the guy that discovered Wet, Wet, Wet and did their first singles.
Wow.
So I'd blagged my way in there. The first day of the recording, I just thought it was going to be me, Les, and Pat doing these tracks. Anyway, we turned up, and then, Eric Faulkner turns up, and we're like, oh, what's happening here? And, Les says, well, we're actually doing music for a spoof horror movie. And that's the first time I'd known that's what we were supposed to be doing, and it was under the name Basically Rollers. So Pat and I and Les were writing like mad, just all working like 12, 14 hours a day in the studio, just writing all the time, and all this stuff was coming out. And Wilf, the guy that run the studio, he pitched in with some ideas as well. It was a really productive session. Anyway, that's part of the story. I could probably write a book about the rest of it.
One of our listeners, Karen Lee, was asking me to ask you if you ever have plans to release an autobiography.
Well, I've kind of, I don't know if Pat told you, but I have started like a little audiobook company.
I have heard about your audiobook company.
It's called Offbeat Audio Limited, and we've just recently got into audiobooks. We're doing stuff for HarperCollins, Penguin Books, Canongate Books, quite big projects. And I got a deal recently with this distributor in America called Ingram Core Source. And through them, I can get my stuff distributed all over the world. So it has crossed my mind. I have got a lot of stories, because I've been in the business since 1976, really, is when I worked in my first studio. So I've kind of seen the recording business from very basic 4-track recording, which we did then, right through the whole technological journey,
Well, that's a lot of years, and I just, because of time, I want to keep going. I heard the rumor is that there's a Pat McGlynn audiobook in the works. Is this true?
Yeah, I have broached the subject with Pat, because every time I go around to visit Pat, I don't know, you must know this, Derek, he's great at telling stories, and you just end up in stitches as well with some of the stories he tells you about. At one point I thought, you know what, I should be recording this. So to me, it's not a big jump, to take a little recording machine in there and just ask Pat everything that's happened to him and get it from the horse's mouth,
Yeah. So, I know there's a big segment of the Bay City Roller hardcore fans that really haven't had their thirst satisfied as far as any kind of book from one of the guys with a lot of the truth and what was really going on and things like that. And I know that it would be controversial, but no one's really done that yet. And I think Pat would be the guy to do it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it would be controversial, definitely.
So
no, I think it would be an amazing getting the inside story, of a lot of those times. But,
because everyone's talking about it in the on online and stuff. Pat's book, Pat's audio book. So I don't know. I thought, well, I've got him on the phone. I'm going to ask what he had to say about that. Is there any projected date on that at all?
Well, we're thinking about starting, just taking my tape machine basically round to his house, maybe in October, and then just starting to, get him to talk. And it'll just take as long as it takes, Derek, because once I get all the recording parts down, then it has to be transcribed, into a script. Because Pat isn't going to voice this audiobook. I'm going to have to get a narrator to do it.
Okay.
Because it's quite a specialised thing, putting the story over, especially internationally,
Yes.
So we're going to get Pat to tell the story, then I've got to transcribe the story, get all the bits that we want, and then see the lawyers about the other bits.
Yeah. I was wondering about the legalities.
Yeah, then I'll, start recording it. And then once it's recorded, it's quite a big process putting an audiobook together. Once it's recorded, then we'll turn it into an ebook as well. So it will be available digitally. My distribution I've got is a digital distribution. So it's audiobooks and ebooks. And then maybe further down the line, if we can get a publisher, if it goes well, your publisher will probably step in and want to publish an actual physical book as well. But
wow.
Yeah, so I'm not in that area of the physical book side of things. I'm more in the digital side. So we would have to get somebody else involved to partner at that stage. But, we're a long way away. We've still got to start recording. It's a hell of a process, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, awesome. How about the Rollers Breakout album? I heard that Pat told me that they did some jamming at your place. Him and Les would come over before that album came out, and they worked out some songs and things like that at your place. Is that true? Like, you did some jamming for Breakout?
Yeah. I mean, the title track was a track that we started out as a jam session with me on the keyboards. I think if I remember right, Pat was on the bass, might have been guitar, I can't remember. And Les again just jamming along with the vocals. And I think there was a track done in that Planet session that I was telling you about in 1984 when I first met Pat. There was
Really?
I only found out that the album actually was out when I recorded Pat in 2009, I think it was. He came back up to my studio here and we did quite a few songs. And that's when I wrote a song for him as well, which is going to be on this new tribute album, which I'm sure you want to talk about.
Did Les McKinnon actually write? Was he much of a writer?
Yeah. I mean, okay. Yeah, I think he was a great writer, and like I say, he's one of the few vocalists I know who could just jam along with musicians. So if you picked up the guitar, he used to say, in fact, "Oh, Ian, go and play something, Pat, you play something," and they'd get us playing and he'd immediately start singing.
He was good at improvising.
Yeah, totally good at improvising. He wouldn't have all the words, maybe have some of the words or bits of words or bits of a chorus or something, and maybe a couple of lines in a verse, and maybe have the first line of a verse, the rest of it he would just hum along, and he would, sing it into his dictaphone. And that was how we captured things in those days, because, you didn't have the same recording facilities that you do now. You could just do it on your phone now, couldn't you? Just sing it to the phone or whatever.
Well, you guys recorded a song with Pat called "I Want to Be in Your Cult," which I really love, and that's you pretty much on all the instruments, correct?
Yeah, actually, once when Pat came in and did his session in 2009, just after it, I was just inspired. I thought I'm going to write a song for him. So I literally did it for him. I was thinking about him when I did the song. I was thinking about how he would sing it, and came together quite well. And then I got him up in the studio, and then I got Janine and even Mia joined in. My wife Kirsty joined in as well, just doing backing vocals for it. It came together really quickly, and and it wasn't. To be honest, I'd completely forgotten about it, Derek, till I got that message from you asking about it just about a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I saw that online. Somebody had posted it, and I thought, how did this escape me? This is really brilliant. And all of a sudden, it was being shared around with people saying the same thing. This is really brilliant. And that's when I thought I would reach out, because doing the tribute album, I thought, God, this would be a great addition for the fans, just for our ears, if anything. And I know Pat would think it would be cool to have it released, of course. So thank you for your letting us do that and your permission and letting us put that song on that tribute.
Oh, not at all. And it's great to have a track on the tribute that's actually got Pat singing on it, hasn't it, as well?
Yeah, it's so cool. I just love it. And you guys are doing Baby Stay One More Day, yourself and Kirsty, correct? Yeah.
You asked us what track we would like to cover for the tribute album, and we had 3 or 4 tracks that you gave us, and that was the one that stuck out, and we thought, we could do this. So I'm just putting the finishing touches to it now. So
nice.
It'll definitely be finished, maybe not by your show on Sunday, but it'll be finished by the end of the month. So
that's so awesome. I just want to say thank you on behalf of not only Pat, but all the fans that are looking forward to hearing the album when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well, because I haven't heard any of the other tracks on it, so it'll be interesting to hear that.
Yeah, 12 tracks total, and of course you'll be on I Want to Be in Your Cult, plus Baby Stay One More Day. And I had another fan that listens to the show that heard you were going to be on, and another question regarding the Breakout album.
Oh, yeah.
And the person wanted to know who played drums on that album, because there's a photo of another guy, of course, and then there's another version with no photo of a drummer. So we wondered who played the drums on the Breakout album.
You'd have to ask Pat, to be honest, because like I say, although I was involved in the tracks, I wasn't involved in the making of that album.
Oh, okay.
But I do have a story a funny story. When we were doing the recordings at Planet, like I said to you, it was mostly me, Les, and Pat writing the songs, for the spoof horror thing. And I hadn't actually seen any of the rest of the Rollers, except for Eric, who seemed to be on his own, doing his own thing with some songs. But it was mostly us 3 just working together. And then there was one day we were told, Radio 4's coming down to interview the band. So I thought, well, that's going to be funny because we haven't actually met the band. we've actually made this whole album, and they haven't even heard it yet. And so what was funny was they all turned up, right, for the interview, and Derek had his drumsticks in his hand, and but there wasn't any real drums on these recordings. It was all drum machines. And so Pat and I were asked to go through the back of the room. So before the DJ turned up to do the interview at the studio, because they did it at the studio where we were working, and we got sent through to the back, and we were sitting through the back and then the band turned up, did the interview, and they all listened to the tracks, and we're thinking, wow, that must be strange. They haven't even heard the tracks before, and they're doing this interview about it. And then when the interview was over, they all left, and then Pat and I came back in the room and continued with the album.
Wow. So Derek got his picture with his drumsticks, but he's not even on the recording.
Yeah, that was funny.
Very interesting. What happened to those recordings?
They still exist, actually. They never actually got properly finished.
Wow.
There was lots of like half ideas, and some of them were quite developed ideas as well. I've actually got them on a cassette somewhere.
Wow.
So I'll dig them out. And see if I can get them up to you. I thought they were great. A lot of the tracks were very uncommercial. It was just us doing what we wanted to do. Didn't seem particularly like Rollers material, a lot of it. Wow. But that I really enjoyed playing with Pat because he's such a great guitar player, and a great bass player as well, you know. So
one thing about Pat, he's such an underrated musician, man.
Yeah, I mean, he was by far the best musician in that band, by far.
We're getting ready. My time is running out. I hate to say that. We're going to play a song by Caliban after the interview, which you asked me to play. What's the story with Caliban with the song called Offbeat?
No, the song's called Caliban, but the project is called Imaginary Creatures.
Okay.
And it's the brainchild of a lyricist, David Scott. We've done 4 albums together now over the years, and he basically comes to me with lyrics. So he's been writing lyrics for years, and he has lots of ideas for the music. He doesn't actually play anything. So he'll try and convey to me what it is he wants, and sometimes he'll play me reference tracks, and he's a big Blue Oyster Cult fan. So
nice.
What happened on one of the albums was that Joe Bouchard from Blue Oyster Cult covered one of his songs, which was amazing. So when this album came up, he had this track called Caliban, and he said, I'd really like Joe to play this on this track. So we just reached out to him, and he played the slide guitar on it in America, and he just sent me the tracks, and I put them into the production, you know. So he was just basically a guest on one of the tracks on an album. But if you do a search for Imaginary Creatures on Spotify or iTunes, you'll find it.
Yeah, it's Imaginary Creatures doing a track called Caliban. My guest, IAIN McKINNA, is on the phone with me from Edinburgh, Scotland. I'm so grateful for the chat today. I wish we had more time.
No
really
problem.
looking forward to meeting you once we get over to Scotland, and thanks for making the time to join us on the Church of Rock. Yeah, that's the place to find them. Harmonic Overdrive, YouTube, Spotify. It's some really good music, that's for darn sure. Wait till you see the video they were talking about on the roof. It's awesome. But I really appreciate your music and you, and I look forward to the future, man, and working with you guys and you and Pat.
Good stuff. And you can also check out my studio, offbeat.co.uk, find out who we're working with at the moment as well.
Nice. Yeah, because I'd like to talk to you down the road and find out more of like who you've worked with.
My recording career started in 1976, where I did lots of punk stuff, like the Scars, TV21, the Valves, and as I say, going right through to now, there's a hell of a lot of stuff, but it's all there on the website.
That's awesome. I love the old punk rock stuff. Well, on that note, IAIN McKINNA, thank you so much for the time, and take care, and we will be in touch very soon.
Okay, thanks, Derek. Nice one. Good to meet you.
Cheers, and hello to Kirsty.
Okay, all the best.
All the best. Take care.